Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. These 3 American elms were dug up from my front pre-bonsai garden 5 years ago. I didn't plant the trees, they just grew in the front garden all by themselves. And for the past 5 years, I've been developing the root system on these trees. I've got the root systems on these trees in fairly good shape now. They're radial, a nice flat fibrous root system. And the tree's recovered from all that root pruning and it's becoming very healthy. So now, finally, I can begin the styling to the top of the tree. Today we'll be getting some style into my American elms here in the bonsai zone. I'll start with the largest tree first, so I'll get it on the turntable and we'll have a look at it. All 3 of these elms were repotted last year, so I won't be repotting them this year. I'm going to let the root system grow and mature, and that'll help get me that nice flare at the base of the tree. I'll show you a tour of the tree now. It's had a few chops to get the height reduced and get some movement into the tree and taper. And the worst chop is this one at the back. There's a really large cut here where a major section of the trunk was removed. And it's had another couple of chops. There's one up here and another one here. And unfortunately, this section of the tree died off. And I'll have to reduce that back to get rid of all this dead stuff. All the rest of the surrounding branches are really healthy. So it was just that one branch structure just died off after pruning. So today we'll be styling this tree, getting all the branches in order, and just getting it underway as a elm bonsai. Before I get into the styling of the American elms, I'll show you some photographs taken off the internet of some mature elms, and I'll show you kind of the how a mature elm looks in nature. They kind of have a trunk that comes up and subdivides. They kind of get a flat crown, and it's very smooth flowing. It's people describe it as a champagne glass, that it kind of has a trunk and then it gracefully flows up into the upper structure. So I'll show you those photos now. Those photos kind of give me an idea of the styling of this elm. And my first decision will be, how high up the trunk do I want my lowest branch? And generally, the lowest branch starts at about 3 times the diameter of the trunk. So if I take the diameter of the trunk and I go up 3 times, this would be where my lowest branch would generally start on a mature elm tree. That rule holds true for the tree now, that if I take 3 times my trunk diameter, it kind of brings my lowest branch here. But as this trunk grows thicker in future, maybe as it doubles in size, you can see it would be 3 times would bring the branch division up to here. So it's something to keep in mind, is how big do you want to grow your tree? How tall do you want to grow it? And for this, I do want my major branch divisions to happen here, because I already have some of that, working for me. So all of these lower branches I will remove. These lower branches would contribute to thickening up the trunk a bit, but because I have the root base flat and radial, that will contribute more to the flare at the base of the tree than any branches would. What these branches will do is, as they develop thicker and thicker, I may get lumps on the side of the trunk. And when I do go to remove them, I'll get a big scar instead of having a nice kind of clean looking trunk. At the moment, you can see the major trunk line is fairly clean. I do have a major branch I took off there. And you can see when you do take major branches off, how you do get that lump around the base of the branch. So the earlier I get these lower branches off, the more scar-free the trunk will look. And I think in the future that will be better. I would rather have a nice smooth flowing trunk than one that's kind of all bumpy and scarred. So that's a style preference. I like a nice clean looking trunk if I can get it. I'll come in with my branch pruners and I'll start down low, getting these cuts nice and smooth and just slightly indented or slightly concave, like that. And then I'll rotate it around, and there's a little one at the back here. We'll get rid of that, like that. And then I'll start a little higher here, and we'll get rid of that. And the trunk will look a little tall until it thickens up. Every year as the trunk thickens up, the proportions of this tree will get better and better. Get rid of this one. And there's a few little suckers here I can get rid of. And we come around here. I've got a couple of branches coming from here. Get rid of those. Like that. And I'll come around here and get rid of this one. Like that. And I've got a couple here. One there. And one here. And one here. One here. And I think that's got my trunk cleaned up. It's cleaning up some of that bark there. There's one stub here I forgot to remove. All right, that's got my trunk line cleaned up. You can see now from the distance that my tree looks taller and skinnier without these lower branches. But as I say, that'll improve in future as this trunk thickens up. The proportions of the tree will improve. So now I'll start on the upper structure, getting that nice flowing champagne style to the upper canopy. Before I start on the upper canopy style, I just want to mention that to me it's very important that my bonsai trees look like the full-size counterparts in nature. So I want my American Elm bonsai to look like a full-size American elm that you would see growing in a field or a park or a street tree. And I don't want my American elm to look like, you know, a maple tree or a pine tree or any other style. I want it to look like an American elm. I'm going to start in the upper canopy by pruning away that dead wood up here, the part of the tree that died off, so that would be right here. And I've got to find where the living veins are. So I think I've got to, these are dead, these branches. You can see they're just brittle, they break off. And I've got this stub up here, so I've got to cut that away, kind of tapering it back and getting it to blend in with these two branches that have grown in that area. So that won't be really easy. I think I'll have to get out a saw and cut that part off. All right, here I go. I think I can get in at this angle and cut this portion of the tree away. So here I go. My saw is a little rusty, but it's cutting. That's cutting well. Almost through. There we go. So that is removed that kind of ugly looking stub. Here's a look at that pruning point now. You can see it's not very attractive. From the front even, it's kind of got that slingshot look to those branches. So that's going to have to be worked on further. And there's a close-up of my kind of ugly scar at the back of the tree. Hopefully, you know, many years from now, that'll start closing up and become less of a, you know, a bulge in this area as this lower part of the trunk starts to thicken up. I'll try nibbling away at the pruning point up here to try and get it to flow in a little better. so that someday it can heal and blend in with the rest of the branches. As I'm cutting back, you can see the difference between the live wood and the dead wood. So you know how far back the living wood is at this point on the tree. And I'll show you a close-up of that. Here's a close-up of that section. And you can see the living wood has got the lighter color. You can see the cambium layer, that's a lighter color there, that's live. And you can see over on this side, it's dead. So I can carve away more of this section. I'm getting down to the living part of the tree at the bottom here. So, just kind of making this a little more smooth. And that'll be about all I can do in that area. It's looking better. Now, I've got to decide what I'm going to do with these two branches. As I said, it looked like a kind of a Y shape here. And it's a very wide Y. It's kind of like that. It's sort of a U shape. And, if they were tight, more like this, it would look natural, but it looks funny with that dead spot in the middle there. So I'm going to probably have to remove one of the branches, and I've got to pick which one. It'll definitely be this one on the inside here. So I'm going to remove that, and then I can continue my carving down a bit to get this all to someday heal nicely, or as nice as it ever can. So this is the inside branch I'm going to remove. So I'll come in here with the loppers, and I'm going to come in about this angle and try and kind of get some flow to the branches. So here I go. I think I've got my angle all set up. Yeah, here I go. That's gonna be tough wood. There I go, just like that. And that's off. So now I've just got to make this cut point here blend in better. And I may have to, I can try nibbling away with the bypass pruners a bit. I may have to get above, put the tree on the floor and get above and kind of get at an angle that I can take that corner off there. I've got the tree on the ground here, so now I can get above and kind of prune this area away a little easier. And I might have to get my branch pruners in there and do a bit of carving in that section. All right, let's see if we can clean this area up a little better. It's a big scar, but hopefully over the years it'll slowly start to blend in better. We had some large American elms in our backyard, which is probably where the seeds came from that started this tree. And they all died suddenly one year. And I'm sure it was some kind of disease transferred by beetles or something. So I'm hoping this bonsai elm doesn't suffer the same fate. I'm always scared that, I'll just get this tree looking really nice and then one year it'll just die on me like the big full-size trees did in the backyard. But so far it's going well, but you never know. And it's, the same with any of the elms, the native elms. Same with the ash trees. Got those ash borer beetles, and they can kill your tree really quickly overnight. And I've had that happen in the past where my trees have been attacked by boring beetles and you just lose your tree in a couple hours. Okay, I think that's about as nice as I can get that. All right, I'll bring the tree back inside and we'll continue the work on it. Here's a view of the tree now. You can see it blends in much more naturally, that transition from the thick part to the new thinner branch. So hopefully that junction will improve in the future as the tree gets a little more mature. Up top on the tree, I've got a lot of really nice flowing branches that create that champagne style. And there's a few of them that are getting too tall. They're kind of getting out of the profile. So I'm going to prune this upper structure back. Always trying to divide one branch into two and so on. Getting rid of my branches that are growing in towards the center of the tree. keeping all the branches that flow nicely and are, you know, graceful looking and smooth. Looking for flow lines. So I'll start on this branch coming out the front here. Well, I've got two branches that are hanging down here. They don't look very good. I'm going to get rid of those for starters. That one and this one. So now I've got this branch. I've got a short one I can prune off here. I've got this branch coming up. It divides into two quite tightly together, which is all right. I'll prune off this branch hanging down here. And I'll prune them back shorter. So I've got divides from 1 to 2 here. And I've got to pick ones with nice flow lines, which would be further out here. And I think to here. And to about here. That'll get that branch pruned up nice. That one. I don't know if that branch is alive. I don't see any buds on it. I think I'm going to prune that off. It's too weak. Yeah, it was dead. I can tell by the color of wood and the cut point there. So now I've got this branch comes up. I've got, I think that one's dead. I've got a pruning stub I can prune back here. Bit of lichen growing in here that I'll have to clean up. I've got a branch coming out here that looks quite good. I could prune it back to here. I've got a vertical one here which I don't want, so I'm going to get rid of the vertical section like that. And now I've got this branch. It comes forward. I think I can take this one off. It kind of crosses in front of the other branch. And I definitely want to shorten this one, so I'll go back. There's a nice shoot there. I can go back to here like that. And on this one I've got some buds facing this direction, so I'll go right to here like that, shortening that, you know, vigorous part of the branch. There's an old pruning stub I can remove there. On this one I'm coming out here. I'll definitely prune this one off shorter here. I've got a vertical section here I don't want, and one here. And I'll want to prune this one back to here, like that. And I think the rest of this first branch here is looking quite good. No problems with that. All right, I'll go on to this one now. So I've got two little skinny branches here that are kind of growing from the side and the bottom of this branch, and they're kind of growing straight up and they look quite funny. So I'll get rid of those. And the one right here. Then I've got two major, there's a pruning stub I can remove, two major branches forking off here, and I've got one growing down below, so I'll get rid of that one. It doesn't flow in smoothly with the design. So I'm coming up. That was a dead one on the inside. That one looks dead too. And the tip, it's got some flex to it, but it doesn't look very strong. I can't guarantee this branch is alive out here. It's got flex to it, so it may be alive. I'll leave it. So I'll prune up this next one. Coming out, dividing to two here. Flows quite nicely. I'll just prune that branch back. I've got a branch going straight up here I'll remove. Like that. I'm going to reduce this one to here. That. And reduce this one. Take the top off this one. Like that. And I don't think there's a whole lot more I can do on that branch. I've got I've done these two branches, and I've got one in the middle here that's kind of interfering with this branch, so I think I'll want to prune that off shorter to here, maybe even to here, like that, and get rid of this one up top, like that. Still a bit of a funny looking branch there, but I'll see what happens. I'll just prune the previous pruning stub off that one, like that. Okay, now I've got a branch out the side here that looks very weak. It's got a bit of flex in it. I can't guarantee that one's alive even. I'm not seeing any buds that have swelled up on that branch. I don't think it's alive. It's not too bad a branch. I kind of have, I've got two branches growing from the one spot here. The one is kind of in the front, which maybe isn't totally ideal. It's not, well, if I angle the tree a bit, it's okay. It kind of comes off to the side. And then this one's directly behind it. So this branch is definitely alive, the one underneath and the one on top, but I think the top of that's dead. So I'm going to remove it for now. Well, forever. Pretty sure it's dead. And yeah, a lot of it was dead. There is a live part where these two branches come from, but the back was dead, so I'm quite sure that whole branch I cut off was dead here. Yeah, it is. You can see there's no color in it. It's the dark, dead color of the wood, so that had to come off anyway. Now, we'll continue on here. So those branches have been done. This one's done. That one's done. I'm going to go up to the apex here now. The lichen's getting quite thick on this tree. I'll have to scrub it all down. I don't want it, you know, covering the branch so much that I don't get back budding. And it's getting quite thick in some areas. So I just need to prune this back, and I'm looking from the front of the tree, and I've got a branch that kind of cuts back across the center of the tree, so I'll get rid of that one. Like that. The rest isn't looking too bad. It's getting quite high. I would like to reduce this whole apex down to kind of, you know, so it's not so tall looking, and I give all these other branches time to catch up and create a canopy here. So I definitely need to reduce the height of that, and I'm just trying to see where. I think I'm going to come into right back to here, and I'll leave it a little high, give it, you know, I may get some dieback in this area, so put it off there. I'm wondering if I should prune these two branches back a bit. I think I'll just take the tips off them. Yeah, like that. Okay, so I think I've got the major trunk line here is all pruned up, so I can go on to this secondary trunk here. I'll just take my old elm leaf off here from last fall. And there's a pruning stub I can take off there. So this branch, I've got a branch at the back here. It comes up and it divides into two, and I've got this third branch here that I don't think I want, so I'm going to get rid of that. So that branch is gone. I'll clean up the surface of the soil while I'm waiting for that train to go by. It's kind of noisy, so I'll just get rid of all the old pine needles that have fallen down here. And here's a look at these surface roots. I've just been kind of brushing the soil back a bit, having a look at them. Looks like they're doing well. I've got a pruning point here that's healing over nicely. healing there. You know, it's looking good and flat and radial and starting to get that nice flare at the base of the tree. So yeah, I'm happy considering, you know, this root system was horrible when I first dug this tree up. I've done major work to this root system to get it even this close. It's not perfect, but yeah, I'll keep working on it over the years and try and keep improving it. Let's go back up top now. And so I have this one branch dividing into two here. I've got another branch going out the back, and I think that's okay. This one doesn't really bother me. I think, yeah, it's all right. I want to reduce the height a bit on this branch. You can see it's getting a little tall, so there's an old stub there I can remove. I think I want to remove this upper portion here, at least to here. Get rid of some of this vertical growth. Again, I'm looking for nice flow lines to the branches. There's one here I can remove. One here. There's one here I can remove. Another one here. Trim that old stub up. There's another one broken off there. I can prune this one back and this one back. And this one. Reducing it a bit, and here. Always looking for outward facing buds. So if, you know, the new growth comes in a nice flowing pattern. There's one back here I think I need to get rid of. It's looking a little funny, and a vertical one here. I'm starting to get, there's two branches here that they're starting to interfere with each other here, so I'm going to remove this one. Yep. Clean up that stub there. Another stub here I can clean up. I'm going to take this one back further to here. Like that. Take this one off. Like that. This part of the branch grows back towards the inside of the tree, so I'll trim it off here. Like that. And I may develop this branch eventually. And also this one too. This one kind of grows back over the top of the tree, so I am going to get rid of it to here, like that. And that may eventually come off too. And I think that's pretty well got the tree cleaned up. It's kind of ready for spring growth. I'm covering the roots back up just to keep them safely in the soil as they're growing. We'll uncover them a little more with the next repotting, which will be either in a year or two from now. Probably 2 years. This is a big pot. It's got lots of space to develop a really nice root system and get the tree growing really strong up top. Here's a look at the American elm now, and it's looking very American elm-like, I think. I'll rotate the tree around so you can see it from all angles. So we're coming around to kind of the right side here, around to the back, to the left side, and back to the front. Somewhere about there, I guess. Somewhere around there. Yeah, it's looking good. So it's all ready to grow for this spring. I had a quick lunch break, and now it's time to get out the second elm tree, the medium-sized one. Here's the next tree I'll be working on, the medium-sized elm. I've never really picked a front for this tree. It does have a big pruning scar at the back here where I reduced it down in height. There's another big scar here where I took a branch off. So probably somewhere in this area is the most scar-free view of the tree. So this will probably be the front, somewhere around here. I think I'll start the branching at this natural kind of junction point here. It's kind of, the trunk kind of comes over here, so you know, you'd have to remove quite a chunk of material off this side if you wanted your branching to start higher and get a clean trunk line. So I'm going to start my branching here, so anything below that I'll remove. So here I go. I'll start with these lower ones down here. Like that. Come around here and remove this one. Like that. And then I don't know if I want to keep this branch. It's a fairly major branch. It's kind of lower than I wanted my division to start, but it's a nice flowing branch. If I remove that, I would just get a bigger scar. It's kind of helping to close that wound there. So I'm thinking it might be best to keep that. I'll leave it on for now. I'll take away the other ones in this area. I don't want two branches coming from the same kind of location on the tree. So that one's gone. I've got a few downward facing ones I can remove here. And then you can see here I've pruned this branch and the one up here, just cut them off, and new stuff has grown in, new branches. But I want to get rid of that dead stub, so I've got to decide if I want to keep that. And unfortunately, instead of growing something on the outside of that that's kind of fanning out from the center of the tree, all the new growth came on the inside towards the trunk. So that new growth is kind of useless. So I'm going to have to take that entire branch off. So I'll do that. I'll come in here and remove that. There we go. So that's gone. It's kind of rough in this area, but and then, you know, I want everything flowing upwards, so all these branches don't do that. They're horizontal. These are the kind of branches I would want coming off of these flowing branches, so developing that flowing structure and then having my horizontal ones coming off of that. So I don't want them coming off the trunk like that, so off they go. And to me, that's a common problem on bonsais, or a common styling flaw that I see, is horizontal branches coming off of like maple trees and that, instead of the smooth upright trunks and then the horizontal branches coming off of those sweeping branches. So from the outside, the maple tree looks normal with the horizontal branches, but when it's bare, you see the actual structure and it looks like a pine tree with the horizontal branches coming off the trunk. It's missing that secondary structure, that upright trunk structure, and then the horizontal branches coming off of that. They have the outside branches horizontal, but they're missing all that nice flowing inner structure, and they're ruining it by having horizontal branches coming off of the trunk of the maple trees. And I just really bugs me, that style. To me, it's making the tree look less beautiful than it could be. And that's just my opinion. I mean, I'm sure the people will argue against me on that it's not supposed to look like a miniature tree. It's supposed to look like a bonsai tree, but to me, I like my bonsai trees to look like miniature trees. I don't want them to be a stylized version of a tree, or I think the closer it gets to a miniature tree, the more magical it looks. And the more people can relate to it too. It doesn't look like a abstract piece of art or something. So on this one, I pruned a branch here, and I did get growth coming to the outside, so that's good. I'll just clean it up so there's a, you know, keeping it the growth I want, fanning outwards. Cleaning up the stub here. like that. So dividing from 1 to 2, getting rid of that upright growth, pruning this one back a bit. It looks good. So you can kind of see that the trunk comes up and I've got this kind of, I don't know if you call it a kink, but you know, it doesn't really flow really smoothly into this branch, but there's not a lot I can do about that. Like I said, if I wanted to get rid of that whole branch, I'd have to take a major section of the tree off, and I'd have to do it to this one also. So I'm hoping that as this grows, it'll blend into the trunk more. It'll you know, start thickening this up, and it'll start to kind of flow better. That's my hope anyway. Some more horizontal branching I'm going to take off there, and here I've got an upright growth, and I'm going to shorten this a bit to here, dividing that one branch into 2. Take off this piece and shortening this, moving that upright growth and shortening this one. You know, it's not a real flowing branch, that one, but it's not too bad. It kind of has an upright curve and comes horizontal. There's a big stump here I've got to clean up. I think this part is dead here. Yeah, that's dead. So I've got to get that pruned back. There's a branch coming out the back that I can prune it back to, so I will. I'll come in here. Might have to use my branch pruners, yeah. I'll take that part off. And again, as this thickens up these new branches, hopefully it'll start to blend in better. Elms can thicken up incredibly fast. If they have a good root system, they're well watered and fed, a skinny branch can become a huge branch in just a couple of years. So that's why I started these trees in the ground, and I regret doing that. I would have rather started them in a training box or a larger pot and managed them a bit better, instead of just letting them grow wild every year in the front garden and pruning them once a year, because they started to get really vigorous and things started thickening up very quickly on them. So, however, you work with what you have. So I kind of want a rounded canopy up here, and this branch is definitely getting way too tall. So I'm going to prune that back, and I'm looking for a bud on the outside here. I think the closest that I have is here, so I'll take it off right here, like that. So here's the structure that I'm left with, and I'm not sure of the exact front yet, but I'll rotate it around. So I kind of have everything fanning outwards. A lot of this growth going to the inside is pruned away and simplified, and I got the height pruned down a bit. It may, have to be reduced further in the future, but I don't want to weaken the tree too much by taking all the branching away. So if I were to pick a front for this tree, I think really hard to pick a front. I just don't like these bulges here. Boy, maybe kind of there, somewhere around there maybe. I think this is one that'll just have to develop into the future, and we'll make more choices later on and see if we can make this tree look like something nice. At the moment, it's still early and it's in the tree's life as a bonsai. It's just barely recovering from all the root pruning and the major reduction of the trunk. So I think that's about all I can do to this medium-sized tree for today. I'll put it back on the bench and we'll get out the smallest one. Here's the smallest of the American elms. I'll rotate it around. So this one had a huge trunk chop here. I'm not sure what's alive on it. This doesn't look alive, this branch, no. So that's got to be pruned away. Yeah, quite a deadwood section there, which isn't pretty. So we'll get this pruned up and get it underway, you know, to look like an American elm. The soil is piled up quite high in this pot, and I'm just dying to see what the surface roots look like. So I'm going to kind of peel back my soil layer a bit. Yeah, it's getting some nice flare there. I think, you know, that was my first priority, was to get these root bases underway. You know, getting a nice radial root base and a nice flat radial root base, because, you know, that gives you that flare at the base here, and it's the basis of all the health of the tree, the roots. So that was my number one priority, was to get all these roots in good shape, and they're slowly getting there. So my next priority now is the upper styling, so I'll get to work on that. I'll just show you the root base up close. Here's a shot of those roots, so you can see, you know, it looks pretty good all the way around. You can't really see the surface roots yet, but you can definitely see the nice flare happening at the base of the tree, which is really good. All right, I'll begin the pruning. So once again, I'm going to remove all these lower branches. I don't want them starting too low on the trunk. I'm hoping to put all these elms together in a forest or a group of 3 someday. I think they'll look good together, having a tall, medium, and a small size. And hopefully, you know, they'll all have similar styling, so they'll all look good together in a group. That's the goal. Take this branch that's hanging down off. This one's on a weird angle. Yeah, this one's on the inside of a curve. We don't want that. And this one's too low, so it's got to come off. And this one's on a weird angle. Get rid of that one. And this one too. So all these little cuts on the trunk, you know, as this trunk thickens, they'll heal over and blend in someday. The hanging branch here I'll get rid of. Again, I'm going for that champagne glass style to the upper canopy. So if I gotta get rid of that dead section, which is back here, just so I know what's alive and what's dead on the tree. I don't know if that's alive, but I'll prune it here. Oh, that was totally dead. I'm gonna prune it back further. These are dead. Yeah, they're dead. I don't see any live part in that cut point. It's all dead tissue. So there, that's pruned back now. I can prune the stub back here from the last time I pruned this. I think. If I get my tool in here. There we go. Oh, that was terrible. Let's see if I can clean that up better. There we go. Okay, and have I got rid of all the dead wood? I think I have. Except for this little one here. There we go. Okay, so the rest is just pruning. So if I wanted to pick a front for this tree, again, I don't like this bulge here and then the branch coming up. It's kind of a bit awkward looking. The trunk line has, you know, a lot of movement this direction. That would probably be kind of the natural front. Maybe there, maybe there. So I've got 1, 2, 3 branches coming from this area on the tree here, and I definitely don't want these 2 here. So I've got to pick the nicest branch. And which one would that be? Well, if this is kind of the front, This is a back branch. This one kind of justifies this bulge here. It'll eventually kind of flare into that branch. Without the back branch, you know, we don't have much happening in the rear. We can develop something off this main leader that kind of fills in the back here, which might be the best. I think I've got to take that back one off. Keep the one off to the side that you can see. So off it comes. Like that. And then I got to decide about this front one. It's kind of coming off in the same section. I'm going to take it off. I'd rather develop this one in that sweeping style. So off it comes. Like that. Now, I've got, this one's looking okay. I could prune back this upright section here, so I will. Like that. So this branch is kind of coming straight towards you. It's growing at the base of the thicker leader, so I'm going to take that off. Like that. Developing this leader. Hopefully get more upright shoots coming off. Take this lower one off. This flows nicely. The rest flow quite nicely. I'll just take the tip off here. And then the side branch, I don't want it that long, so I'm going to reduce it back. And I think I'll take it right back to here. Like that. And then I'll take the leader off here. Just the tip off here. And the tip off here. And I think that's about all I could do to the tree. I'll get all the elms on the table here and have a final look at them. Here's a look at the 3 elms together. Large, medium, and small. I think they'll look good as a group planting someday in the future. It's time now for today's update. Today's update is my single larch, my North American larch, and I'm just going to give it a good clean up. All the needles from last year have fallen on top of the moss, and I'll just do a general tidy up to the tree and maybe even a little pruning. Here's a view of the present front of the larch, but it also looks quite good from the back. If I rotate it around, it has maybe a little more rugged looking trunk. It's got a pruning scar here and some extra roots growing down here. So I don't know, it looks good from both the front and the back. Who knows? But I'll still, keep pruning it as if this is the front for now. I'll start by picking all the needles off the top of the tree. They're all kind of caught in the branches here. And then all these needles will fall down on top of the moss, and I'll clean that in the end. There's no point cleaning the moss if I've got more needles up here. This tree used to be really tall at one point. The first chop I did was right here, and it used to be 3 to 4 times this height, straight as an arrow. And this branch, which is now the trunk line, was 90 degrees to the trunk. So I just cut it off. I had this stump with a 90 degrees branch on it. And then as it grew over the years, this branch started rising up to its present position where it's almost in line with the main part of the trunk down here. And then I just continued clip and grow until I got this kind of movement and taper to the crown of the tree. So it's been a long process. I've had this tree probably for I would say at least 15 years, maybe even more than that. It was a tree, one of the trees that Lessig collected, and I had a larch that died. It got attacked by boring insects, and Lessig felt sorry for me and gave me one of his larches he had collected. So yeah, I took some major risks in styling it, cutting that trunk off, but I think it really worked out nicely in the end. I think it's slowly getting to be quite a nice tree. Seems like a lot of my trees are from Lessig. If you're watching, thanks a lot. He gave me my all the larches in my larch forest too. And that was probably 20 years ago. Time flies when you're having fun. I did in the last, I think it was the last video, I did wire this one branch down lower like that. It looks like there's not much tension on this wire anymore, so it's probably set in that position. However, I'll leave it on for another season. I don't think I'll crank it down even lower. I think it's quite fine the way it is. And the reason I did that is it kind of matches the styling of this branch. It looked funny up here before, so I think that was a big improvement on the tree, getting that branch kind of tethered down. Okay, I think I've got most of the needles off the top of the tree now. So I'll clean up around the root base here. Okay, so I'll get this all this moss cleaned up, and then we'll start on the pruning. The buds have swelled somewhat on it. They're definitely not at the point where they're starting to break or anything. This tree is in a mica pot. It's one I got from Chris Henry, the bonsai guy. He kind of supplies a lot of our bonsai supplies in Ontario and Quebec too. And you can look him up online. He's on Facebook. He's got a website called The Bonsai Guy. And he sells trees, he sells pots, he sells stands, he sells soil, fertilizer. He doesn't sell water for bonsai, but pretty well everything else. Wire, if you're into that. I'm about halfway done getting all the needles removed from the moss, and I must say I'm really enjoying myself out here in the greenhouse. I'm all alone, it's just me and the sounds of the birds. What a fantastic way to spend the afternoon. I've got the moss all cleaned up now. Let's go in and have a look at it. So there's the surface. It's getting quite an interesting root base. It's developing really nicely. I'm quite happy with it. There it is from this side. Yeah, it's coming along nicely. I can see a little bit of green on this one branch here, but most of the branches, the buds haven't swollen enough where I'd feel confident that I'm pruning back to a live, there's another bit of green there, where I'm pruning back to a live bud. I don't want to be pruning a branch back to a bud and then find out later on that that bud is dead. I've done that in the past where I've assumed all buds were alive, and I've been pruned a tree back and then find out those buds never did come out, and you lose the whole branch. So I'm going to wait. I just don't feel confident enough about these buds yet until they swell up a little more and start turning green. So I'm not going to do the pruning today. It's better to be safe than sorry. Yeah, so that's the tree. It's looking quite good, I think. I pruned the branches back quite short last time, and I think once they fill out a bit, it's going to look really good, this tree. I'm going to do some more work on this branch, probably keep this part that's coming forward, develop it more out front to kind of match this one more. But yeah, it's coming along, and it's getting some nice bark texture now. Much more bark texture than my larch forest. It's getting quite rough on this tree. So that's good. That's all the work I'll be doing today. Some more spring cleanup. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.